Plains Baptist Association podcast, and it's called Pasa. And so this is what's happening in Great Plains Baptist Association. I'm here with Kevin Baker, and we've talked about his testimony. We have talked about how he came to Christ. We talked about his call and ministry. We've talked about this wonderful church, Martha Road Baptist Church, and now we're going to talk about a new ministry in his life that's really only about 6 to 7 years, and it's being a chaplain with the Altus Fire Department. So you might share with us just a little bit about chaplaincy here in Altus.
Okay. Well, actually, I guess my experience with chaplaincy started a little before that with training to be a chaplain for disaster relief.
Okay.
And I did that for a couple of years. And then I was contacted. I had a couple of firemen in my church, and they had never had a chaplaincy program in the fire department here. But I had 2 firemen that came to me and said, hey, we really need this. And they called me in. I did kind of a consulting thing with them. They had a fireman that was having some issues. And from that, we were able to launch the chaplaincy program. Danny helped me a lot. And in fact, I took there's 3 of us, and they're not Baptists, but I took them to disaster relief training. And we did the CISM training there, and that's helped us a lot.
But you do have a new Baptist, David Stewart's coming on.
Yeah, we just added, so he's known as the 4th man in the fire.
All right,
yeah.
We love that.
So about 8 years ago, we started here. It was 2 other guys that were helping me then. So I guess I kind of like, and Danny's been a chaplain, so there's kind of 2 parts to chaplaincy. One is just becoming good friends with the firemen. And that just takes time, hanging out in the firehouse, riding in the fire truck in a Christmas parade. If they're doing a community event, I go and help them there, and just getting to know them, because it's a big trust level. And especially, being the very first exposure they had to chaplain, some of the guys were really resistant to that.
That's understandable.
We don't need this, we're okay. And I remember talking to one guy, he's not there anymore, but he said, I don't need this. And I've dealt with like 65 dead bodies in my career. And I'm thinking, if you're counting, you've got some issues. So he was one of the early adapters. He realized, hey, this is good. And now, the department's grown, that we've rolled EMS into that. And it's something that just, it's mandatory now that they get involved with that. And I worked a really tragic accident a few weeks ago where there was 5 deceased people in 2 different cars, and we talked about the debriefing before I ever left the scene. They were already asking for it there on the scene, so that really developed a really trust with the guys. So there's 4 of us now. We work a 1-week shift where we're on call 24 hours a day. But now they call us when they need us. We don't chase the fire trucks around town.
Right.
But they kind of have some criteria. If there is a deceased person, they'll call us, and we'll go out and we'll work with the family at that time. But our main objective is the firemen. It's for their mental and physical health, and then the traffic accidents. So we employ this thing called critical incident stress management, where we meet with the firemen after a tragedy, after a death, and we meet with those who were involved with that, and we just walk through that, let them kind of debrief and kind of unload that, unpack that, get it off their chest. Because they go through the same thing that our soldiers go through. They come back from battle, and they have PTSD, and there's certain things that will trigger that. And a lot of times it's not that first incident or the second one or the third one or the 4th one, even the 5th one. Sometimes it's years down the road, and something will just trigger. Like that old saying, the straw that breaks the camel's back. And so they were talking about, there was a guy that was in the department years and years ago, and they'd worked a really bad industrial accident. And he came home, and he went to his house. I think he quit that day, started drinking and drank himself to death. Our chaplains have gone to some training, and the guy always says this, that the number 1 killer for first responders is first responders.
Absolutely.
So that's our deal. We're going to take care of our guys, help them with their mental health, because they have to go home. And so if you have to extract a burned body, a child, from a car or from a home, or somebody is just totally destroyed in a car accident, crushed or whatever, you don't go home and talk to your family about that. You kind of stuff that down, but after a while, you just can't take any more, and we often begin to self-medicate, either drugs, alcohol, or other things. So our job is to help them process that. So it's been a great privilege to be able to do that over the years, and we just added a fourth chaplain. He's a former EMS personnel. He's doing marketplace chaplaincy, so we asked him to come join us. And so he was there was an ambulance response. His next door neighbor, and he walked over, and one of the guys said, "Hey, you're the fourth man in the fire now, right?"
That's right.
So that's our nickname for him. He's the fourth man in the fire.
I love it.
So that's kind of stretched our month out just a little bit. So when you're a rotation of 3, that third week comes around pretty quick.
And when you're rotating 3, there's times you're out of town, and so another
we cover
chaplain
for
will
each
take
other.
your place. If you're out there watching, I don't want you to misunderstand. You do not have to be a pastor to be a chaplain. We have many chaplains in the Southern Baptist Convention who are doing disaster relief chaplain. I would recommend that if you really care about people and you feel led, go hear Naomi Pageant teach the disaster relief chaplaincy. It was probably one of the most impactful things in my life. And I retired from chaplaincy after 31 years from doing fire department chaplaincy. But that made a real impact on me. I'll tell you another thing, just because the chaplaincy ministry, after the Murrah building in Oklahoma City, and I was just at a 30th anniversary yesterday, Teddy Wilson, the Oklahoma City fire chaplain, retired. We had 0 suicides after the Oklahoma City bombing on the fire side. And it had to do with, I think, the CISM. It had to do with the follow-up, sending guys to counseling, keeping an eye, doing pulse checks with each other, and ministering. And so if you don't mind, if you're watching today's podcast, hey, pray for our firefighters, pray for our EMS, pray for our policemen, pray for the chaplain's ministry. And if you'd like to be a part of that, contact Kevin Baker at Martha Road Baptist Church or the Altus Fire Department. Contact Danny Ringer with Great Plains Baptist Association. And we would love to have you a part of the chaplain's ministry. Is there anything I left out, Kevin?
Well, I was going to say, if you're interested in this, this isn't another preaching gig for us guys.
No.
In fact, I think they would probably frown on it. We just went down there and preached to them. So when we're doing the CISM training, we're not there we don't really talk that much. We start the conversation and always end it this way. We're not here to preach to you. We're not quoting verses, but we'd like to pray for you, and that no one's ever said no. We do get to pray at events and things like that, but really we're not there to be their preacher. We're there to be their friend.
Absolutely.
In a friend in a time of need.
It's a ministry of presence is what it is. And so what happens is, after a while, if you're a policeman or a fireman, you can come, it's not that you cry, it's not, you do, but there are times that you can become hardened because you see this on a regular basis. And I think it's almost a protection method. And after you see something so long, you become just a little bit indifferent, and your family notices and others around you. And so by being able to talk this through, you don't become that hardened person.
You're right.
And so the chaplain's ministry throughout Western Oklahoma, as far as fire chaplaincy and here at Altus, God's just using it in a great way. And Kevin, thank you for serving.
Yeah, just one more thing.
Absolutely.
I think if we could make our chaplaincy complete, we could do that with a female chaplain.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the majority of our firemen have wives, and if we had a female chaplain that could be a chaplain to the firefighter's wife, and then all of our firemen are men, but on the EMS side, I would say half of those are women. So I think they would probably feel more comfortable if they had a woman that they could befriend and help with those debriefings. I think it'd be a blessing. So if there's any women would like to, come and be a part of that, we'd love to talk to you about that.
Well, feel free to contact Kevin Baker or Danny Ringer. And hey, thank you for watching today.